Welcome back to City Trends. I'm your host, George Miller. We have our next guest, and you're really going to enjoy this segment. And this is actually where I started, and he's with Toastmasters. And I shared with some of you before, when I came back from Korea, what I did was, first thing I did, because I was given briefings over in Korea, and I wanted to refine that skill set, is I joined Toastmasters, and I let them beat me up for a year. They didn't really beat me up, but they helped refine that skill set, because there was a lot of things, and even in the colleges today, a lot of times I'll see professors, they'll give a presentation, and then they just walk away from the podium. And we learn at Toastmasters, you never leave the podium until you're properly relieved, so you don't ever have an audience staring at an empty podium. And there's a lot of other great things that we learned in Toastmasters, is to start with a hook to engage your audience, and then if you end your presentations with a story, oftentimes they don't remember anything else, but they'll always remember the story. I see people 5 years later, and they'll be like, "Oh, you told the puppy story." I'm like, "I talked there for 4 hours." That's all they remember. All right, thanks a lot. It's great. Could you share a little bit about Toastmasters and what you guys are doing now?
Sure. For those that don't know me, my name is Wayne Hamilton. Toastmasters is a public speaking organization that, long story short, teaches you, people think that Toastmasters only teaches you about public speaking, but that's really just the doorway. Sure, it teaches you how to present in front of people, and it helps you to learn how to kind of banish the butterflies, so to speak, but it teaches you so much more than that. It also teaches you how to listen. And in turn, when you listen, not only can you give evaluations for what is being presented, because when you're listening, you can filter a little bit better. You can pick up on the different parts that are both areas where improvement is needed, as well as the positive segments. And if you listen while an evaluation is being given, you are able to filter it better through your mind. And a lot of people can be somewhat intimidated by an evaluation, because they're afraid that it's going to be too harsh, that it's going to be, you know, an attack or something like that. And Toastmasters helps you to kind of clear a lot of the emotion out of it so that you can see what's really being presented. One thing that I like about Toastmasters, I've been with them for 4 years now, we like to call Toastmasters a mistake-free zone. We know that that's not really it, but what it means is that you are given a positive, supportive environment where you can learn, you can grow, and the critiques are always given in what I call the sandwich technique. Yeah. It starts and ends with what was positive about the presentation, and then in between you have the areas that are presented for improvement. So that really helps to develop the public speaking skills, both for newcomers and seasoned professionals alike.
It's not a roast. They're not going to get up there, and when they critique you, they're not going to roast you. What they're going to do is they're going to talk about the positive components of your delivery, and then they're going to talk about the areas that you need to refine.
Yes.
And so, you know, within 12, 14 months, you see someone that was just afraid to get up there. We had one person, they got up there, and they just uttered a sound. We didn't even know what it was, and they went back to their seat. And then a year later, they're given a full-on presentation with all the body language and hitting all the key points. And so,
yeah, that is definitely something. It's interesting that you mentioned not being roasted, because last week in my home club, which is Stellar Toastmasters, we had one of our founding members actually be the subject of a roasting speech. So, no, they don't come after you to roast you, although later on you may be given a roast in your honor, but it's not a negative thing, as far as, at least as far as I know anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, when you watch, I miss the old Dean Martin roast myself, because they were actually honoring them when they were roasting them. They were acknowledging all their accomplishments, but they were having a lot of fun in the process.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Comedy Central can't hold a candle to those old.
Oh
old
no, those guys were great.
And
go ahead.
Actually, we have a convention that's going to be coming up, our November District Conference, which is going to be held November 4th and 5th at the Doubletree Hotel down here in Fresno. First time in 5 years.
Okay.
Normally the November conferences are held in Las Vegas, but we get a chance to represent here in Fresno this year. So this is a good experience for anyone who is interested in finding out what Toastmasters is about, anyone who is a newcomer that's just curious. We also have two of our speech contests that happen throughout the year. In this particular case, we have our district level humorous speech and evaluations contest. So these are people that have gone through different speech contests, starting from the club level and going all the way, progressing through to the district level. And whoever wins at this level are considered the top presenters for District 33, which is where we're at, which covers Central California and part of Nevada.
Okay, so are you sending a member from your club to the competition?
Actually, I am a district area director, excuse me.
Okay.
So I'm actually part of the group that's holding this, that's responsible for getting it together. And there are several members from the clubs under my jurisdiction that will be going to help represent Fresno in this endeavor. So there will be plenty of us. There are a lot of people that come in from Visalia, all the way from Las Vegas, Sacramento area. So I mean, just everywhere around the Central California and Nevada areas. And normally we get anywhere from 200 to 500 people, depending on the particular locale and so on. We're expecting a really good turnout this year. And this is not just a closed segment. This is something that's actually open to the public. If you want to find out more about it, you can go on to the Toastmasters website, which is toastmasters.org. Or if you know someone in the local area, you can contact any of the local clubs, and they should be able to give you that basic information.
Awesome. Now, one quick question before we have to cut to a commercial. Who's the keynote speaker going to be this year?
The keynote speaker usually is...
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's all right. The keynote speaker is usually someone in high regard with the community, or like the immediate past president of Toastmasters International.
Okay.
And I don't have an exact name at this moment, but our keynote speakers have always been someone who is very highly regarded in their community, and they've always had really good speeches. So if you get a chance to take a look into it, I highly recommend it for anybody, because you can use it in any part of life.
Oh yeah, I love to watch those guys because they're the best. And the last couple times that I went, they had winners from previous years come on, and they were keynote speakers. And a lot of them, they never planned on having careers in public speaking. They had just joined Toastmasters, and then in the process of winning all these competitions, they ended up starting their own companies. And, and end up traveling around and speaking at corporations, and the trajectory, of their career path completely changed just because of Toastmasters.
I think the statistic is something to the tune of like 65% of all professional speakers have come from some form of Toastmasters training. So one of our founders, the fellow that was part of the roast, his name's Alan Pettibone, likes to quote the quote of, "If you get into Toastmasters to get all you can out of Toastmasters, you'll never get out of Toastmasters."
Oh yeah.
Because it just gets that addicting, and there's so much to learn.
Oh yes. Okay, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, if they want to get a hold of me, you would go to the Toastmasters website, toastmasters.org. You would look up the clubs in the Central California area, Fresno, and my home club is Stellar Toastmasters, but we have 4 or 5 different clubs in Fresno, the Fresno-Clovis area alone. So you can usually find the websites. Most clubs have their own website. We happen to have a Facebook page, Stellar Toastmasters. Feel free to take a look. All the contact information will be on the websites.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
We got to cut to a commercial, and we'll be right back.